guys, so it's been a long time coming, but we're talking about the second and final season of Amazon's Hunters. It really does feel like an eternity has gone by since that very first season debuted on Amazon Prime Video, which I did think the first season was solid. I thought it had a pretty intriguing premise and a pretty good cliffhanger, unaware that I was going to have to wait almost 3 years to find out the resolution to that cliffhanger. Honestly, I had to go back and rewatch large portions of season 1 just so everything was fresh in my mind and I didn't miss things for season 2, because like I said, 3 years have gone by. And with the fact that this is also serving as the final season for Hunters, it is kind of a tough task at hand to wrap everything up in a satisfying manner. Season 2 spends an ample amount of time getting you back up to speed with everybody and the fallout after Meyer's death, with several years even passing in story. Everyone now is pretty disgruntled on their own, which that alone kind of feels confusing to me. At the very beginning of the show, we're already having some issues because it seemed like even though Jonah had killed Meyer, they were all going to go on this mission together to take out all these people in Eastern Europe, and they're now all separate and don't get along, and they hate Jonah, and Jonah is on his own and kind of gone rogue at being a hunter. Nevertheless, though, once everyone begrudgingly sets their differences aside for this one final mission, even adding some new members along the way to the team along that journey, Season 2 does bring some life and intrigue to its story, crafting some pretty fun, action-packed undercover missions, since the goal is attempting to take down the one big bad, like the end-all be-all Adolf Hitler. In my opinion, one of the best aspects to Season 1 of Hunters was Logan Lerman, his portrayal of Jonah, and just everything we saw him go on over the course of Season 1. And from a character perspective, it is kind of tough because we do have this overly large ensemble cast, but I do think he does continue to shine further in Season 2. With Meyer out of the picture, he's really able to flourish and come into his own as a character, take charge, and is a much more active participant now, seasoned into this career path and all the darkness that comes with it. Plus, he's got a spiffy new makeover. It's the late 70s now. He looks like he's from the late 1970s, and he doesn't look like a very young boy. He really has come into his own as a man. Aside from Logan Lerman as Jonah, my personal favorite amongst all of the cast of characters is Jennifer Jason Leigh playing Hava. We heard her voice at the very end of Season 1, which I realized when I rewatched the Season 1 finale, and she was mentioned a little bit, I think, earlier on in Season 1 too, but she was played by a different actress because I think she was younger. But Jennifer Jason Leigh, she's fantastic in this role. Right from the very opening scene of Season 2 where she's introduced, she's fantastic. Such a magnetic, charismatic presence. And even when she does clash with the Hunters from time to time over the course of Season 2, she's also able to bring so much emotion to her character. And we're given a lot more of her backstory, and I think that does help kind of buy into the character other than her just being a total badass most of the time. Speaking of backstories, I know I'm not the only one that was very perplexed by the fact that Meyer was shown in a lot of the promotion material in the trailers and in the posters, kind of wondering what's his deal here in Season 2, because if you've seen Season 1, it's a spoiler for Season 1, he's dead. We watched him at the very end reveal that he was the wolf and Jonah shot him. So how the hell is he in Season 2? And it's not a resurrection. It is all expositional backstory, which does kind of have me a little bit torn just about his inclusion in Season 2. Nothing that has me torn has to do with Al Pacino at all. I think his performance is brilliant, as to be expected from Al Pacino. Since we know now that he is the wolf and not actually Meyer, we get to see the darker side of the character that we didn't get to see a whole lot of in Season 1. Like all of the ruthless evil things he did along the way to keep his true identity of the wolf a secret, but at the same time, it just takes up so much of the show's runtime with that info, it inevitably just feels kind of superfluous. Structurally, it just feels weird the way that we mix it in with the main story that's going on, and it doesn't really add too much new info to what we already didn't kind of assume happened in the first season. And we know that the stakes aren't really that high because we know he's gonna probably get away with all of this stuff because Jonah kills him when he finds out he's the wolf. But it's just great to have Al Pacino on screen, so if you just wanted to see more of Al Pacino as the character, I think that's going to be a bonus for you. Whether you think that stuff with Meyer is necessary or not, I think just in general, on the whole, unnecessary material is one of the big factors into what brought everything down for me in Season 2 of Hunters. I would have assumed because there's 8 episodes in Season 2 as opposed to the 10 in the first season, there was going to be a lot of fat trimmed off, but it's kind of the opposite here, and I don't think anything everything was paced very well, which made it even more of a chore to get through, especially in the middle portion of season 2. Every undercover mission or shootout the hunters endure over the course of season 2, they'll bring the story to a halt almost right afterwards and try to pad out the story with things that aren't all that interesting. There were times it almost just made me wonder if potentially there were supposed to be more seasons of the show and they had the seeds planted for them, and because they only had one season to wrap everything up, they just decided to throw as much as possible into this final season. Whether it's all of that backstory every episode involving Meyer, all of the backstories we get for all of the characters and how they became hunters, Jonah's drama with his fiance, the Colonel, Adolf, and Travis are just sitting around and doing almost nothing the entire season. There are rescue missions here and there. Barely scratched the surface involving Joe and how he has just been a PTSD prisoner to Adolf and the Colonel for all of these years. Even the penultimate episode of this season, it just feels so random and out of place because it is predominantly a flashback episode to a couple in war-torn Germany in the 1940s, and the best way I could describe that episode is imagine Home Alone, but with German soldiers trying to infiltrate a house and all the booby traps involved. That's the best way I could describe it. All the while, we're trying to build up to this big, epic conclusion to everything, and it kind of goes out with a whimper just because it is such an underwhelming lead up to that. Because at the end of the day, the story is very thin, but we just have so much stuff to pad out the runtime, which is why I think there was probably originally going to be more seasons leading up to them inevitably going after Adolf Hitler. This was something I alluded to a bit earlier, but as much as I like a lot of the ensemble cast, there are just too many characters in Hunters, and because of that, a large portion of them don't get any sort of development really, or very little development at the very most. Lonnie, Joe, Harriet, or even Millie get very little, which sucks because some of them, like Millie for example, were great aspects to season 1, and in season 2 she kind of fades a lot more into the background. Obviously Hunters is fictional, they're twisting and bending history to fit this fictional narrative, and I would say it continues to lead into some more questionable decisions. We had some in season 1 with them playing human chess, and season 2 I think objectively has just as many questionable decisions. I'm not Jewish at all, so I can't really speak on them as a Jewish person, but I have a feeling that there's going to be a little bit of criticism for some of the stuff they do with certain characters. Really kind of riding that line into distastefulness. It feels like there's good intentions potentially behind some of the writing, but it's just questionable execution with where they take stuff. It's hard to describe without going into spoiler territory. There definitely are flashes of solid material among season 2 of Hunters, despite having a somewhat messy execution. If you enjoyed season 1 of Hunters enough that you would want to see how everything concludes with season 2 after waiting almost 3 years to get that conclusion, I think you're going to get some enjoyment out of it. I wouldn't necessarily say it was worth that almost 3-year wait. I wouldn't say the conclusion was overly satisfying or gratifying. But either way, like I said, it'll be on Amazon Prime tomorrow or even tonight, because I think usually Amazon, they'll put their shows on early. These have been my thoughts on season 2 of Amazon Prime's Hunters. Make sure you share your thoughts down below once you get a chance to check out this series. Did you like this series? Did you not like this series? Did you have any expectations going into this after waiting almost 3 years? Or do you actually have any satisfaction for this finale? Do you think it was a satisfying conclusion to Hunters? Share your thoughts down below on this season in the comment section. It's part of the fun this time to conversate with you guys in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for checking out the videos. I always do appreciate it. We should like on the video and also subscribe to the channel so there's up to reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Next time, I'll see you guys later.